welcome back to the CrossFit Thelo podcast. Today we have a special guest, Nate Kraft.
Hey guys, how's it going?
He's here. He's hanging out with us.
Mr. Nasty.
Nasty Nate. You'll hear us refer to him as that often.
That's why Emma doesn't talk to me now, because
Emma
scarred her.
Emma genuinely thinks that this is you.
That is me.
That is you, because John, I think, has told her
Yeah.
that is Nasty Nate.
Yeah, if anybody wonders where the logo came from on the Thelo logo that's on the wall of the building, it's Nate.
It's an honor. It's an honor.
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
Yeah, so Nate was one of our coaches.
Yeah, if you guys don't know Nate, a lot of
you
y'all do still, but those of you that don't know Nate, he was one of our coaches for a long time. And then just kind of moved on with his life. It's fine. Everybody does. They leave us behind. But he's coming back one day.
Went on to be a missionary.
Don't make us sad.
Yeah, so we're going to give it to Nate. We could talk about him all day, but we'll let him talk about himself. Just giving us a general background of who you are, kind of what you've been doing with your life.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Wow. It's what you've been doing with your life is always a big, heavy question.
It is. We'll keep it the short version.
Yeah, I always feel pressured to come up with something really extravagant. Yeah, so I'll kind of talk a little bit about maybe how I came to know you guys, and how I walked through the doors at Thelo, and where that has brought me on my journey since. But
where are you from?
That's also a loaded question.
That is true, because I feel like every time I ask you, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, oh gosh.
You know, I tell people now that I'm from Jacksonville.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because that's where
your heart is.
That's where my heart is. Where I feel like it's my hometown. But I grew up right outside of Tuscaloosa, like between Birmingham and Tuscaloosa, in McCalla, and went to high school there at a high school called Brookwood. Little small town, kind of like Jacksonville. Actually, smaller than Jacksonville.
Really?
Yeah, very small town. But grew up playing sports, and knew that when I was in high school, college football was definitely a strong desire and goal of mine. And so I worked very hard and diligently to be able to have that opportunity. And thankfully I did have that opportunity right up the road here at Jacksonville State.
Yep.
So I graduated high school in 2014, and then came to Jacksonville State, play football, and loved it. It was such a great experience, and taught me a lot about who I am and helped me grow and mature. But during that time, I was just like every other, I think, teenage boy growing up playing sports. Like, I just loved to work out. There were often times that I enjoyed training for football more than I actually enjoyed football. Mm-hmm. You can probably relate to that a little bit. But, so I was playing football, and I had an opportunity one summer to go on a short-term mission trip. Mm-hmm. And that mission trip was to Peru with my church, and just kind of began to shift my perspective, shift my heart a little bit. And so I knew that missions, and we can talk a little bit about this if y'all would like, but I knew that missions would be a part of my life in some capacity. Didn't know what it would be, but I knew that it was something that I wanted to be involved in. So the next summer I went back, and I was still playing football, still going to school, but during the summer I served as an intern in Peru. And some of the things we did there was pastoral training and discipleship amongst the indigenous tribes in the Amazon basin. So I spent 6 weeks riding in a canoe, going up river into the jungle, and sleeping in a hammock. Yeah. Yeah. And I felt like I fit right in, like I was at home there. And then I just kind of had that growing desire in my heart that was something that was going to be a huge part of my life. So after that internship, I actually decided to step away from football and go into my training and preparation to become a full-time missionary, and move there for a significant amount of time. So stepped away from the game, continued to get my degree in clinical exercise science, because my goal was to go to physical therapy school after I got done playing football and after I graduated. because again, I love training. I loved helping people. I love the science of exercise and fitness, and I felt like that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people get back to their sport if they were suffering from injury or whatever it may be. And so I thought that I was like, that's going to be the route for me.
Yeah.
After spending some time in that arena, like internships with physical therapists, I realized that's probably not what I want to do.
Yeah, that's good that you found out before.
I found out soon. So I still wanted to get my degree in exercise science, which some people would argue is, not the most useful degree, but we're making it work.
I was gonna say, y'all are. You guys are examples that it's working.
We're making it work. So I started my preparation, my training, going to Peru, but I continued to get my degree. And once I got done playing football, I was like, I love to train, I love to work out, and I love competition and community. So I still need that in my life. And my roommate, Davis, shout out to Davis.
Love me some Davis.
Man, he started it at Thelo, and we were in the 204 gym. And he was like, "Hey,
did y'all come together, or he came before you?"
He came before me.
I don't think I realized that.
I think he started a couple of weeks before me, and I was like debating on it. I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it."
I remember that him starting first, and then you coming in there.
Yeah.
I feel like y'all two changed the culture of the whole gym.
Yes.
And you probably don't know that.
Don't tell me.
But
you're gonna make me cry.
in a good way.
In a good way, yes.
In a good way. So, and the reason is sometimes I don't like the CrossFit culture, right? And I don't know what it is exactly about it. I fall into it some too, but there's just something, right? From the outsider's perspective, you look and you're like, I don't know if I want to be like those people, right? And y'all come in and y'all have got your football players, right? So you've got cut-off T-shirts and cropped T-shirts.
Yes.
That, like you wear on your shoulder
I wish I still
pads.
had that cropped T-shirt.
And everybody's like, who are these guys? Like, clearly have not been here very long. But you're over there squatting 450. And so you immediately have the respect of everybody in there.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like, okay, that's a good thing. Like for everybody to see, like, hey, these guys are athletes.
Yes.
Right.
They're coming in here, they're doing it, and it was fun. And then everybody just kind of, y'all, jumped right in, and everybody loved you, and then
Usually for me, there's like a huge transition when people come to the gym and they get really close to us because I'm just a weirdo. Y'all had like no weird transition. I feel like it was just like fit the mold. It was great.
That makes me happy.
Yeah,
I'm so glad to hear that.
It was just so.
It was fun.
It was. I know. I remember when Nate was doing the back squats, and everyone was like, ah, like screaming, and it was so cool. And I was like, this is awesome. I don't remember. I guess it was in a class. It might not have been in a class, and Nate and Davis came like during one of the open gym times, but it was just really fun. I remember that. Like my first impression of you working out was doing back squats, really heavy back squats.
That was all I could do then.
Yeah.
That was the only thing.
That was the most impressive thing about you. For sure.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll take it. To be back there again.
I know. That was a good time.
I want to say that I'm not saying it's the first workout that I did, but one of the first workouts that I remember was Fight Gone Bad. And that was when I realized, like, I'm not fit at all.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Fight Gone Bad.
I got wrecked.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though, to hear, like, y'all's perspective of somebody coming into the gym, because I can say that me and Davis coming into the gym were just completely... Not humbled, but humiliated.
It's tough. It's tough, I think, as an athlete to come in and you're used to being, especially if you played in college, like both y'all did, like you're used to being top dog.
Right.
Or close to it. And then you come in and there's a, middle-aged woman who's got 3 kids that smokes you in a workout using similar weight. And you're like, oh, wow. They're parts of my fitness that are not there. Yeah.
I remember, and we all do this, like you pick somebody out in a class, whether you're dropping in or it's a new gym or whatever, and you pick somebody out in the class, you're like, I'm going to keep up with that person.
Yeah.
Well, I was like, I'm going to keep up with John. Like, that's fine. Well, that didn't happen. So then I was like, well, I'm going to keep up with Kate. Maybe if I could just beat Caitlin. That didn't happen. And so then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to finish the workout.
We're just surviving. We're surviving.
It can be humbling when you
Yeah,
first come
for
in.
sure.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It challenges you.
It's
Like Nate
tough
was
to get
saying,
over
there's
that.
like a competitiveness that's challenging. Not a bad competitiveness, but
Right.
it challenges yourself, and you get to compare yourself to others in a good way and just kind of work towards different goals.
Yeah.
It's really fun. But I'm so glad that you came. When was that? 2017 when you came to the gym?
I want to say it was the fall of 2017.
The fall of
Yeah.
2017.
It was August. It was right before
we
y'all got
married?
married.
Okay, I was about to
right
say, we
before
were
y'all got
married.
married.
Okay,
Y'all
so
got
yeah.
married in 2017?
We did, the fall of 2017.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess you came then.
It was right before that.
Yeah, and then you've just been with us ever since.
I've
Even
come
if
and
you
gone.
haven't physically been here,
Yeah,
you've been with us.
but I've always been here.
Yes. So I guess you worked out with us for a little while, then you got your level 1,
Got my level 1 in 2018.
2018, and then you coached for us for a while.
Yeah, for about a year maybe.
Well, first you finished your degree by interning with John,
Yeah,
and y'all did a lot of work.
we did a lot of
A
stuff.
lot of
Yeah.
stuff. Y'all did so much.
That was a critical time.
It was. We were
In the
all over
journey
the
of the
place.
gym.
Yes, we were all over the place. That was crazy.
Yeah. It was in between classes we were ripping out the ceiling.
Yeah.
Yes.
We were ripping out the ceiling. We were rewiring the building. We were finding
Killing mice.
we,
Somebody needs
we
to
were finding
check
critters.
that wiring.
Yeah, y'all had a good time, and that was when I was working. I was teaching, and I was so jealous because John, y'all would send me videos, and I'm like, oh, I want to be there.
Yeah.
I do not want to be here. I want to be there. It was so fun, though. That was a good time of life.
I don't know how I got school credit for that, by the way.
I know. I'm like, why is this not a thing? We've had a couple of more interns since you, and they've been great.
Yeah.
But you kind of set the standard for the interns.
You're so kind.
Yes, because, we had some bad ones in the past. I was not here when we had
I
the
think,
bad
yeah,
one.
and I think it was not necessarily the student. It was more like
We just didn't know what to do.
Yeah, like, I don't know what to tell you to do.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
hey, stand there and watch me coach and learn. But that's
Yeah.
like, you do that 5 classes a day. It gets kind of boring.
Yeah,
There's only so much, so.
I will say that is when I began to see that this was a possibility for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like realizing that physical therapist was not going to be my route, but seeing the interactions that you had with people, the impact that you could have on people, and the enjoyment that you could have doing it. That's when my mind began to move in that direction. Even though I was preparing to go to Peru, I'm like, I think that I have this passion for a reason.
Yeah.
And so that's when it began to shift, and I guess I began that journey to where I'm at now.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's awesome. So cool how stuff works out like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just looking back at it. But okay, so you were here, you were a coach, you were wonderful. COVID happened. Right? No, you were gone.
I was in, yeah,
You
so
were
I
in-
left at the beginning of 2020 to go to Costa Rica and go to language school to
You were
learn
supposed to be there
Spanish.
for a year, right?
Supposed to be there for a year. We got there, and after about 6 weeks, everything started
Shutting down.
I'm sure everyone,
crazy
yeah, I'm sure
time.
everyone can remember where they were at when they're like,
Yes.
"Hey, we've got to wear masks everywhere."
Yes.
Um,
We were having the Thelo games. So we had the Thelo games Friday night.
Oh, yeah.
And then all the teachers got a text message saying no more school for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And we were like, what?
Wow.
So that was the
Things
last
shut
event.
down.
It was May 13th, I think, or 12th. And then the world shut down. March.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
the
we
world
did it
shut
earlier
down
then.
right after
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. So I was in Costa Rica at that time. And we, like anybody else, did not know, like, where we were going to be in the next, 6 weeks or whatever. So our classes were shut down. We were, for the first time, trying to learn Spanish in Zoom classes. So we were sitting in our apartments,
Pretty hard enough.
like I can see my neighbors in their window and they're on my Zoom meeting, which is weird.
It's really weird.
Yeah. And learning Spanish that way is not super easy either. But during that time, it was kind of another realization of I want to be a fitness coach. I want to, help people live healthy, holistic lives. And because we were in this beautiful country, not able to go out and explore it, not able to really get the full experience of our language school and training there. It's like, well, we got to do something. Like, we got to do something, not to just pass the time, but like continue to build our friendships with one another. So I had like a jump rope and a sandbag. And I just started going out in our little courtyard every day and working out. I asked another friend to come work out with me, and that turned into 2 or 3 of us working out. And then it turned into 10 of us working out, and then it turned
your own
into
little class.
it turned into 15 people working out, and like I had a whiteboard outside,
That's so
and
cool.
we got laundry detergent jugs and filled them with sand.
That
and
is awesome.
Yeah, we made kettlebells,
That's awesome.
and it was great. I have some pictures. Me and Leah were going through a couple of weeks ago, like looking at the pictures, and they're just great.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So you just let fitness follow you.
Yeah, I did.
It's a good icebreaker
It is.
For sure.
to find like common ground with somebody, or if they've never worked out before, even it just shows that you care about them. Like, hey, I'm working out. You want to come work out with me?
Yeah.
It's cool.
That's so cool.
So great.
Especially to see people who maybe have never really worked out before, or they've only worked out by themselves.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
people who the only exercise they've done has been at home, by themselves, following some routine they found online, or they go to the gym and they walk on the treadmill, and so they've never had that connection with somebody else who is also after the same goal as them. And when people experience that for the first time, I think it shifts their mindset,
Yeah.
motivates them a lot.
They
Yeah, for
realize that they don't have to hate it. Some people like working out by themselves, right? And I do from time to time, for sure. But I think a lot of people, it's a drag to, I got to go work out, and it's by themselves, and that's the only thing they know, and they're like, I just need to do it and get it done. But then when you work out with somebody else, and it just kind of adds that, one, it adds accountability, but two, like if you're both excited about it, then you're excited for the other person. It just creates this whole different perspective on fitness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Fitness is great.
Fitness is great. That's why we're here.
That's why we're here. Yes.
That's what we do.
So yeah, you did the whole Costa Rica thing. You made some friends. You had your own gym basically going on.
And you got sent back.
Then you
And-
came
and
back
then I
for a
got sent
little
back.
bit. We were
Yeah.
so
I was
happy.
I was very happy.
We were happy.
I
I know
was
you
sad
weren't
that you didn't get to do.
Yeah.
what you needed to do, but we were pumped that you were home.
Yeah, I know y'all threw a little party. Y'all were like,
yeah.
oh, Nate, we're heartbroken for you.
Yes. Yeah, so you were with us again for a little while, and then you went in January?
And then I went the following January. So I came back from Costa Rica in July of 2020, and then I was here until January. And then in January, I went to Peru.
Yes. And you were there for how long?
I was there for a year.
So long.
Yeah.
So dreadful.
And y'all had 2 kids during that time.
Say it was dreadful. It was not dreadful. It was wonderful. You were doing the Lord's work, but we missed you. But yeah, we did. We had another kid. I remember telling John, because we got pregnant with Andy quickly after Emma, and we had her, and then I was like, John, literally so much has happened since Nate's left. He's going to come home and be like, y'all had another one?
Yeah.
Like, what?
John messaged me and was like, well, Nate, you got to stop leaving the country.
Yeah.
Because every time you do.
leave.
For real, though. Yeah, but Peru was great.
Yeah, Peru was
Except
incredible.
for that time you almost died.
Yeah.
Except for the time I
Yeah.
almost died. There were a couple times that
my
I was not
goodness.
well.
Yeah, that really
That's a good
stresses
story.
me out.
Maybe not for right now, but that's
Yeah.
a good story. I thoroughly enjoyed
I'm
it.
just like imagining
Now
it
that
in my
you're
head.
still
And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, that stresses me out. But
Yeah.
whatever, you made it back. You're home. You're with the love of your life. We're gonna give her a shout
Yeah.
out.
Leah.
To Leah
Oh,
Johnson. She's awesome. She's been also with us. She's been with John like at the gym probably longer than you own the gym.
I'm pretty
'cause the
sure she worked
Johnsons-
out there before I was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Johnsons have been. They're OGs.
I think she was 16, 15 or
She's probably
16
15.
whenever
It may have been
I started
before
coaching
that.
there.
Yeah.
Oh,
When
15
I-
or 16, yeah.
when I
I
started.
was about to say,
Yeah.
I think she started at Thelo when she was 14.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
was a baby.
Yeah.
I say a baby, but
So
now
Thelo, for those of you who don't know, is where Leah, my fiance, and I met.
it's just the
and-
love match.
yeah,
You know?
There's
It
been
is.
a few. There's been a
Successful.
few
There has been a few.
successful couples.
Austin and Becca, Nate and Leah, me and you.
Wow.
Oh, I mean, we can maybe credit Brian and Kelsey, but they were also at Stoke too, so we'll credit both.
Yeah.
Fitness, whatever
Yeah.
it was, fitness.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you came home, and then what'd you do?
So while I was in Peru, I saw that, again, like fitness was something that I was passionate about, and a tool that I could use just to connect with people and hopefully have a positive impact on their lives. So after Costa Rica, like, this is something that I want to continue to do in my ministry in Peru. So several times I would, invite some men from the church, and we go out to a little park and do some body weight workouts and stuff like that. And it was a lot of fun. But through that, I realized, like, this is a passion that I have. This is a gift that I have, and it's okay for me to use that.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay for me to use the thing that I love to just share the love of Christ with people.
Yeah.
And all of that was happening in my heart, so I'm praying about what my next step would be after Peru. And I'm talking to some close friends. John, I think you and I had this conversation, and I had this conversation with Carlton, just people that I really trusted who knew my heart and knew that I was either doing it for the right reasons, or if they didn't think I was doing it for the right reasons, would love me enough to kind of call me out and say, hey, you need to check your heart. And so over about 6 months, I just spent time in prayer and tried to seek counsel in what my next step would be after Peru. And excuse me, everyone that I talked to about that was very supportive and just like, go be a coach. Go love people, and like, you're going to make a huge impact on people if you do that. And so I knew that I wanted to get back in the coaching space, and that was what my leaders and, AGWM, Assembly of God World Missions, that's what they encouraged me to do. They were very supportive in that. And so they were like, yeah, just go back home, get back in the space. Like, you and Leah spend time together and continue to build your relationship, and God's going to direct your paths.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. And as soon as I came back, I actually had a job opportunity before I ever came back to the States, which I was super thankful for, and was at that gym for about a year and learned so much. It really shaped who I was as a coach, and the people that were there had been doing it a long time and were very successful. And so I got to glean a lot of wisdom and experience from them, and it really just sharpened me. So I was there for about a year, but Leah and I were still separated in terms of location.
Yes, y'all have never lived in the same area.
Yeah, until now. So the gym that I was working at, there was a location in Birmingham and a location in Huntsville, and I, over the course of the year, worked at both of those, but knew that it was time for Leah and I to live in the same city finally. Yes. So started looking for opportunities in Nashville, which was where she was living at the time, and just I met a guy named Nick Friedge, and we had same heart, same vision, and he owns the gym CrossFit Breakthrough in Nashville. And so we kind of started meeting and had coffee a couple times, did a couple of Zoom meetings just to make sure that we were kind of on the same path, wanting the same things. And so he invited me to come join their team up there, and I have been with CrossFit Breakthrough since January, and it's been awesome.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
And that is where I'm at now. Me and Lee are finally in the same city.
That's so awesome. You guys are doing life together.
Yeah.
Like, in the same place, which is so awesome.
Yeah.
We've heard some really good things about that gym. We know a couple of athletes from here, or we just know some people from here that have moved on and gone up there. And they love it too. So that's awesome. Yeah.
It's a great place. It really is.
It's so good when you find a good place to lock in.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that you're up there. I'm glad that you and Leah are in the same area.
It's made a world of difference.
Better.
Yeah.
I know. Like, I cannot imagine. And then, y'all have a wedding coming up.
We do.
Yeah.
July 2nd.
Oh, my gosh.
That's coming up soon.
That's so fast. I'm excited. Today we are actually celebrating them with a couple showers, so I'm pumped about that. Y'all know I love a party.
We're going to have fun.
Oh, yeah. But, yeah, so that's Nate's journey in CrossFit fitness.
Do you still train? I think you do. Train people who are on the mission field? Like
I do. So I actually train several missionaries now just through online programming and actually developing a program that I could administer to more people on the mission field. And one reason is it's very it's kind of a unique niche because a lot of times they don't have access to gyms, or they're in locations where they can't really find gym equipment. And so after our experiences in Costa Rica, I was like, you can get pretty fit with very little if you have some guidance. And so I've been working on a program for missionaries specifically, kind of a minimalist program, and where they can connect, on a platform and hold each other accountable and post videos and scores and ask questions so that they can feel like they are a part of a community as well.
That's awesome.
That's such an important aspect to us.
It definitely is.
I think that's such a good example of like what we're trying to do and like where your heart's at, what we love to do is like, so you've got missionaries on the field and they're passionate about sharing the gospel.
Right.
Like, that's their focus.
Right.
Most of the time what's neglected is their health.
For sure.
Because they don't care about their health, right? They're sacrificing their body so that they can share the gospel, whatever it takes. But you're coming in and your ministry now, at least part of it, is, hey, you're going to be better at going to share the gospel if you can stay fit.
Right.
So let's do this. Be a part of a little group, hold each other accountable, stay fit, and you can be even more effective.
For sure.
And that's cool. But that's just an example of what we do in here.
Yeah.
We got people of all professions who they're passionate about whatever it may be.
Right.
Building houses, right? Being a chiropractor. That's their job. That's their focus all day. But hey, let's be fit so that you can do that even better.
100%.
Which is super cool, and that's what keeps us like loving fitness. Like I take it we talked about this before on podcasts. I know all three of us are very serious about what we're telling people to do.
Yeah.
We nerd out about it because there's a lot of weight on that. I don't want to tell somebody to do something that is actually, working against them or hurting them in some way. So that keeps me pursuing getting better as a coach and learning and all that kind of stuff. So that's really cool.
And I think to go back to your point of what we do in the gym is to build people and prepare people for things outside of the gym.
Yeah.
That's the purpose of CrossFit.
Oh, yeah.
Like sometimes we can see CrossFit as the competition that happens inside the gym, or we could see it as the CrossFit Games, or we could see it as the sport. And it is all of those things too for certain people.
But
for
the general public, it's not.
for the most of us, it is not and should not be.
Yes, yes.
Right.
I tell my ladies all the time, I say my ladies, just the ones that I typically tend to work with, like, we'll do kettlebell offset carries all the time. And I'm like, think about you're holding a baby, you're holding groceries, you're holding all these other things. This also goes for men. Men do the same thing. They need to hold their babies and the groceries too. But like, I tell them often, like, how much does your kid weigh? Because they're like, well, what weight should I do? I'm like, well, how much does your kid weigh? Oh, they're 20 pounds right now. Okay, well, they're going to keep growing. So let's not go anything less than 20 pounds right now if our body can hold that with a good form. So, yeah.
Yeah, I had a lady
Functional
tell me
outside.
one time, we were doing probably some farmer's carries, and she grabbed like some 5-pound dumbbells. And I was like, you can carry much more weight than that. She was like, no, I can't. I don't think I can go up. I'm like, do you know how much a gallon of milk weighs? She's like, no, well, no. I was like, do you ever carry a gallon of milk into the house? Yeah, well, it weighs about 9 pounds,
Right. And sometimes, like, you have to carry your dog. You have to carry certain things. You have to pick stuff up off the ground. Like, it's just good to change their perspective sometimes. Because it's like, it is intimidating when you walk into a gym and you see dumbbells and you're like, I've never picked up a dumbbell. I don't know what I can do. And it's like, well, just think about what you do every day outside. Like, outside the gym. Like, you're picking up things. You're moving things. You want to be self-sufficient.
Right.
Which I think is super cool.
Yeah.
Super cool that we do in here.
Yeah. I think what makes CrossFit unique, and this is why I think I am in the CrossFit space, and probably you are too, Nate, is because we need those things and we know it. But let's say you carry your kid, right? You want to be strong enough to carry your kid, not hurt yourself and all that kind of stuff. Well, you could just, by yourself, get a kettlebell and just practice carries. But you're going to quit that very soon because you're so bored.
Right.
But what CrossFit does, one, it creates a community. That's a big aspect of it.
For sure.
Two, the way the workouts are set up, it is somewhat like a competition. And naturally, people are drawn towards that challenge of a competition. And it's more intimidating to some than others. But even in just a competition with yourself, you're drawn towards that competition. And so the competitive side of it does play a pretty big role.
For sure.
I've been pretty big on that the last year or two, like trying to understand, okay, why is this popular? Like, why do people are drawn to this? Because, it's a unique way of working out, and it's gained a lot of popularity extremely fast. Also some criticism. Sometimes the workouts are not set up like optimally in that, hey, this is going to make you the strongest person the fastest way possible.
Yeah.
But it is something that you will stick to because it is enjoyable.
Right.
And if it's enjoyable, you'll do it, and that is going to make you stronger faster than doing what's most optimal and quitting halfway through because you're bored and decide that, well, I'm strong enough because I hate doing this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what kind of draws us to this type of fitness in CrossFit.
Before we get further, what time is it? Because
It
I
is.
don't want to rush the second part, and if we have to, we can split.
We got time. We got 30 minutes.
Oh, okay, perfect. We'll cut that out. Okay, so yeah, we've talked a lot about CrossFit and kind of why we all enjoy CrossFit, the purpose of CrossFit, what we think of the purpose of CrossFit is. I do want to highlight that Nate has his CSCS.
I do.
He got that like a year ago.
Stands for Certified Strength and Conditioning Certification.
Well, thank
Nope,
you.
specialist.
Specialist.
Specialist,
Yeah.
there
I
you
forgot.
go.
It's not a C at
Well,
the end.
John
it's
is
an S at the end.
taking his sometime in the next couple of months.
I have 4 months to sign
Thanks
up.
to Nate.
Yeah. You gotta get it done in that window. Or,
Yeah.
I know.
or you gotta pay
Yeah.
you.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah, please.
Thanks for your
please
money,
no.
but
So we're going to kind of talk through something that John and Nate really both enjoy, GPP versus like sports-specific training for athletes, things like that. So I guess GPP, what is GPP? Who wants to take that one?
I'll take it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Let's go.
Yeah, GPP is General Physical Preparedness, and I've mentioned it several times in emails and stuff, just kind of like to educate everybody in
just
here,
giving
just
some
to
more
understand
terms
what that
out
is.
there.
Yeah. And it's not just CrossFit. There are lots of programs that are for GPP, but the goal is to be of any GPP program is to be as well-rounded as possible.
Right.
And that makes sense, right? General Physical Preparedness, just so you can tackle anything that life throws at you. The idea from CrossFit, and this kind of goes way back to the original CrossFit methodology, which they did a very good job of like defining, hey, this is what CrossFit is and what it's going to do for you. But GPP is like the pulling a workout out of the hopper, which is a terrible way to work out, but it's a good way to kind of show that, hey, I'm prepared for anything. Think you've got like a million different workouts in this big bingo hopper, and you just pop out a random one. Are you prepared for that workout? Can you do it? Not can you win it and be the absolute best at it in the world. That's what the CrossFit Games is. But can you do it?
Yeah.
And do it effectively and be confident with what you're doing, and then pull out another random workout. And that can be anything from the spectrum of a 1 rep max to the opposite end of running a 10K or something like that. So that's CrossFit is a GPP program. That's what we aim to do. So I think each gym is programmed maybe a little differently and has some tendencies. I know I'm probably a little more towards the strength side of things, but that's just my own personal belief on fitness, and they allow us to program specifically for that.
Yeah, which is awesome.
And I think we mentioned it earlier, like everything that we do in the gym is to prepare us for things outside of the gym. And that you may not do a lot of other super active things outside of the gym, which CrossFit actually encourages against that. It's like that's the end of the fitness in 100 words is regularly play and learn new sports. Like that's an important aspect of CrossFit because there's a lot of benefit in experiencing new things physically, whether that is going for a hike, whether that is, we were talking about playing pickleball, the other day. It's like there's a lot of benefits to that just in terms of health and fitness. Even if we are coming in the gym and crushing it every day, there's still, like, we can't cover all of the depth and the breadth of health and fitness inside the gym. And so an important aspect is let's get outside and let's try new things.
Yes.
You you can't work so hard in 1 hour that it covers for 23 hours of laziness.
Right.
And sometimes laziness is forced by like your job or whatnot. You know, you just have a sedentary job and that's just the way it is. But there are things that you can do to kind of, you know, combat that a little bit. But it is important to move outside. I think mentally too there's a huge benefit to your cognitive brain function.
Yeah.
We were listening to somebody talk about, they did this study on they called it brain or exercise snacks, and what they did is a sedentary job, right? Think like in a cubicle at your desk all day. They had these people just 3 times a day. So when they first got there, at lunch, and then I think right before they left,
Yeah.
they did 20 seconds of all-out exercise. They had
Max
them
exertion.
They had they had them run up the steps for 20 seconds. It's really not that long. Now, you can get your heart rate up, you know, in 20 seconds, but you're not going to sweat. It's not enough exercise to where you're going to start just pouring sweat, especially when you're inside. It could be air squats. It could be
jumping jacks.
jumping
It could
jacks.
be burpees as fast as you can. Like, it's just max effort for 20 seconds.
Their brain function skyrocketed. Their work productivity was like through the roof compared to what it was before. And also their VO2 max started to increase incredibly just from a minute a day of total exercise. So it's incredible what it does for you to be active throughout the day, not just, okay, I'm going to come in and work out for this 1 hour and get after it hard, and that's going to cover me for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work like that.
Yeah.
It's obviously better to come work out than to not,
Yeah.
especially when you're talking about building muscle.
Right.
That 20 seconds won't do it for building muscle. However, for your VO2 max and your conditioning function, your brain function, I think it's extremely beneficial.
Yeah. And in terms of just like weight management as well, I'm working with some guys on their nutrition right now. And these are all guys who come to the gym 5-6 days a week and they crush it. Like they get after it. And they've been doing that for a long time. And a lot of them are asking like, okay, why am I not losing weight the way I would like? Or why do I not have like a lower body fat percentage? And every single one of them have sedentary jobs. And it has the aspect of NEAT or non-exercise activity thermogenesis, where your just regular daily activities, whether it is standing while you're washing the dishes or moving around in your seat, or like John's doing, bouncing his leg right now, like all of those things contribute to our metabolism. I want to say the number is like up to 10% of our daily caloric expenditure, which is actually higher than that hour of exercise.
Yeah.
And so what I've encouraged the guys that I'm working with to do is just like, hey, stand while you're working, go for a 10-minute walk after you eat a meal, move around, sit in the floor so that you're moving in different
just
places.
move.
Yeah, just move.
Yeah.
Have to.
And that's a huge contributor to our body fat percentage. And I think I was listening to probably Huberman and Andy Galpin talk the other day, which is just like a wealth of knowledge.
Yes.
But he was saying that they did a study on people who bounce their leg like that, and how their metabolism is much higher and they have leaner body composition solely because they bounce their leg.
Yeah.
I remember my grandma getting mad at me for bouncing my leg.
Yeah,
at the
Leah
dinner
gets mad at
table.
me when I'm in church and
I
keep
can't
shifting
tell
around.
I'd be like, look, I'm just burning some calories,
Exactly.
okay?
I think I heard somebody say, like, you never see fidgety people who are bouncing their leg and kind of like just move all the time, really that far overweight.
Right.
Because their metabolism stays. And doesn't mean like, if you're like, I'm going to lose some weight, I just need to be fidgety.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about it, it's gonna be weird, right?
Yeah.
But
That's super interesting. We're going to have a lot of leg bouncers now.
Yeah.
After listening to this.
Bounce your leg, people. Bounce your leg.
I can't help it. It's
I
I
can't
know,
either.
I know.
But we've talked about this before. The most calories that Kait sees on her whoop strap, as far as like, and it's not extremely accurate, right? The whoop strap, as far as calories burned, and for everybody listening, your Apple Watch calories that you burn in the workout, it's not exactly accurate, but it does show something, right?
It's not useless.
Yeah, it's not useless. Doesn't mean if it says I burn 500 calories, I can go eat 500 calories and be fine.
Oh, please don't do that. Yeah.
But the most calories burned throughout the day was not when you just were sprawled out on the floor after a 30-minute workout. It was when you went and cleaned 2 houses that day.
Yeah.
Because you stayed moving for 4 hours at a low to moderate intensity.
Right.
The days that I clean houses, I burn way more than when I just get to work out once or twice a day.
Yeah.
Right.
Burn way
So,
more calories.
and So if you can that low intensity is very effective at burning calories, but it has to be for a long period of time. And most of us don't have 4 or 5 hours in the day to do a moderate intensity bike ride.
Yeah.
Like, So it has to be doing stuff like cleaning your house or just trying to
doing
stay
stuff
moving
outside.
while you work.
Yeah,
Right.
just do stuff.
And there's a lot of ways you can do that. If I've heard people talk about, if you have a sedentary job, every 30 minutes throughout the day, do something for 30 seconds, 20 seconds that gets your heart rate up.
Yeah.
You got to think it takes a while for your heart rate to settle back down.
Yeah.
And just doing that is going to keep that average heart rate a little bit higher, and you're going to burn more calories.
Yeah.
Just little things like that can be effective.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super cool to think about the science behind all this. But again, we're kind of going back to the GPP. That's the aim of what we're trying to do here. Is
That's what we do in
everybody.
our gym.
Yeah.
But I know something, Nate, you were a former athlete. John, you also were, just not in college. But you have...
a NARP.
Yes, a NARP.
I just want to say, I said this to somebody the other day, and I don't think I've ever brought it up in an argument against you in this.
Oh, boy.
I did officially sign the papers to play baseball in college.
He's not a NARP, Kait. We can't call him a NARP.
I didn't actually go.
But
I didn't play.
didn't
But I did
follow
officially
through.
sign the
That
papers.
counts, John.
Does that count for something?
You didn't
Yeah,
have to
that
go
counts.
through the hard preseason. No, it doesn't count in my book, but that's fine. You probably were a great athlete. I'm not shouting.
I don't know about
doubting
great.
that.
I was average.
No, you're similar to my brother. It just comes easy to you. Probably why you didn't play, because you're like, this is too easy.
If I would have known what I know now, though, I feel like I would have been a lot better.
Same.
I agree
I
with
used
that.
to stay up
Same.
till 2 or 3 every night, and get like 3 or 4 hours of sleep, and I would function on that all through high school.
See, I slept pretty well, but
That's-
like my diet was not great. Like the form of exercising,
was
like
definitely-
I would run. What did you just say?
Do what?
What did you just say?
Said my exercise was not great.
Oh, I thought you said that your diet's still not good. That's what I thought you said. I was like, well, dang.
Even if I thought that, I would never say it.
I know. That's why I was like, what?
I was about to have to leave the room.
Podcast over. But yeah, like it's insane. We talked about this like I think one of our first podcasts, the lack of knowledge in college that we had on just like from the staff at Jacksonville, which is a smaller school. They have grown so much now. I'm so jealous of all their facilities that they have now. But like the lack of information for nutrition and they did their best when it came to working out, but I do think that some of us were doing some things that maybe we shouldn't have been focusing on as much.
Right.
And maybe some other things we could have focused on a little bit better. But I think I could have been such a better athlete.
Yeah.
Just all the way around. But we can talk about like sports specific training, like training for athletes on their like specific sports. I know we're getting into that. John's been wanting to do this for a while now. I did this a couple years ago with some of my Westbrook girls and absolutely loved it. In the summer, we're doing it with some teens. Nate, I know you enjoy this stuff also. So let's talk about that, like sports specific training or just training for athletes in general.
Yeah, I would say just in general, although the movements look very similar to what we do in CrossFit versus what somebody does in sport-specific training, movement patterns are the same, but they are very different, and they're very different intentions, and they serve a different purpose. With GPP, like, again, we're just training for life. I heard somebody the other day say, if you have a body, you're an athlete, and I would agree with that, but if we're not a sport, playing a sport, like our sport is life.
There's a different level of athletes.
Yeah.
So, but if you're playing a sport, whether it be football or soccer or basketball, then you've got to train for the demands of those sports.
Right.
Now, CrossFit has laid out the demands of our sport, which is life, and it's 10 general physical skills. All of those skills are included in whatever work, play, movement, whatever it may be that we can be involved in. It includes those skills. And I would say that is a comprehensive list of things that we could experience physically. But when you're training for a specific sport, there may be some of those skills that you need to be more competent in than others. And some of those skills, if you're not familiar with those, are strength and power versus coordination and balance or cardiorespiratory endurance, just to name a few. And so specific sports are going to have specific demands, and you're going to have to train for those demands more than you are other, other of those skills.
Right. That's something that we've gotten a lot of questions, I think, the last week since we've announced that we're going to do a little bit more sports-specific training this summer with our teens. Like, well, what is that going to look like? Well, we haven't done it before, but it, like John's been telling people, it's not going to be CrossFit. Like, we're not doing CrossFit-type workouts. Yeah. We're going to learn how to move. We're going to get comfortable with these movements. We're going to build off of those movements that we've done the last couple of years in the CrossFit classes, but it is not CrossFit based, you know what I mean, or not going to be ran like a CrossFit class would be.
So CrossFit is like a genre of working out now, right? It's just like you see a workout and you're like, oh, that's a CrossFit workout, even if they have no intention of that being that way. But I think one of the big differences that I have seen and know between training like an athlete or to be an athlete and just your GPP CrossFit workout, it may be the same movements, but the rest times are significant. Right. So I had this conversation this week with somebody. When you're training to be an athlete, for pretty much all sports, track and field, we can kind of push that to the side a little bit for this. But you want to be explosive, right? You want to be not just like straight line speed. You want to be able to, get off the line quick or be, very explosive, have some power. We do things that, train for that. Power cleans, for example. Okay, hang cleans, box jump, things that are explosive. If you don't have rest time in between doing it, and we do that a lot in CrossFit workouts, 10 rounds for time, 5 power clean, whatever it may be, you're going to do those, but you're going to do them fairly slow. Right. At like 60 to 70% speed compared to if you're fully rested and you're pulling it, as fast and hard as you can. Well, when you train doing them at 70% like speed, your body is going to adapt to that speed. So you're making yourself a little bit slower, or you're not improving the speed like you could. So having that rest time in between sets to where you're fully recovered and you can fire those muscles as quick as possible, I think is a big key difference between the way that you train. Yeah. Not that, and Nate, you probably know a little more than I do as far as the difference between these two because you've definitely coached them more than I have. But sorry, I just lost my train of thought. The difference is when you're coaching them and running them through these. Man, my mind just went blank, and it was a good point too. It was a really good point.
It'll come
You're
back.
talking about like the athletes, just the differences.
Yeah.
In CrossFit versus them. Nate's coached them a little bit more.
Yeah, I know. That's what made me lose my train of thought.
Oh. What a bummer.
It'll come back.
It'll come back.
It will come back up. But yeah, like I think that we're excited this summer to really get into this and hopefully help. John's been training some high school athletes for the last year or so. Yeah. And it's been super enjoyable to watch him just nerd out on it. We love people that nerd out on things. And then seeing those athletes transform. I mean, I think you've been working with one for a full year now, almost.
Yeah. I know what I was going to say.
Oh, we're back.
We're back. So
nice
I do think, thanks.
He wasn't listening to me at all when I was talking.
I did, no, I was. I do think that CrossFit style workouts can be good for athletes for a specific time or period in their season, right? So like maybe off season, just to stay very well rounded, because you can get too sport specific, right? Yeah. Where you create some imbalances or things that are going to cause some issues or injuries and things like that. Right. So it can kind of bring you back to being well rounded. Keep this good level baseline on all 10 of those skills. And then as you get a little bit closer to the season, you get back to being very specific and you really highlight those. Yeah. Am I right on that?
I would definitely say that's important to include some sort of movement variety in the off season. I remember we started running like 110s very early in our off season to condition. Yes. And not that I'm saying that's wrong, but number one, going back to your point earlier, John, was like, we lost interest in running 110s very quickly. If we started in January and we're running 110s until July, that's a long time to just
be. That makes me so
cringe.
Yes.
I did it with JT one time and it was not fun.
Yeah. I bet he threw up a lot. I used to throw up. I was a thrower-upper.
But
I haven't since CrossFit, but
I've seen some other very experienced coach friends of mine who are in the sports specific arena. Like they have their guys, high level athletes, doing ski erg and farmer's carry for some of their conditioning in the off season. It's like it's low impact. They're trying to maybe come off of the season and just continue to move a little bit and have some time recovering. But they're also getting a lot of movement variety in it. And that can kind of prevent some overuse injuries or some imbalances that you will develop, even though if you look at a sport like football, they're moving all over the place, doing all sorts of things. They're pulling, they're pushing, they're moving laterally, they're rotating. And so, yes, that includes a lot of movement variety. But then oftentimes we don't really train like that. Now, I will say, but like a difference between CrossFit and sport-specific training is when we talk about our different energy systems. In CrossFit, they become a little convoluted. And that's okay. That's intentional. It's like we may not train the phosphagen system one day and then train the aerobic system the next day. It may be a mix because that's kind of what happens in life. You know, we're not going to run a sprint away from a bear in 10-second intervals and then rest for 3 minutes. Like, you know, you're going to sprint and you're going to have to recover while you're moving and then you're going to sprint again.
So you're just running, just never stopping until you're free.
Is that what you're training for now, Nate? Is to run from a bear?
I'm training to chase a bear.
Chase a bear. Remember when Nate was in the spearing?
It's still going to happen.
It's still there. We actually talked about it.
I was going to say, didn't we talk about this last time he was down?
I'm going to spear an animal one day.
Oh my gosh, that's what Nate's training for. If anybody's ever wondering, in the heat of a workout, just look at Nate and that's what he's thinking.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. That's actually why I went to Peru as well, to
scope
learn
it
from the
out.
best.
That's awesome.
But yeah, this like in CrossFit, the energy system training becomes a little more mixed. And we now know, and I from what I understand, our knowledge and understanding of energy systems is continuing to evolve. And we see now they don't really exist independently of one another. They're always operating on a spectrum. It's like one, based on what you're doing, based on your intensity, is being utilized more than the others, but they're still always working. Now, when we're training for a sport, maybe those do become a little bit more specific. Like maybe one day you are training for max strength. Maybe one day you are training for max power. And then other days, like, well, we're trying to just do some steady state cardio. But in CrossFit, because our sport is life and life doesn't happen in a lab, then we can't train like we're in a lab.
Got to be prepared for all the things.
All the things.
I think the tendency of a lot of people in here, because a lot of people come from athletic backgrounds, is to train anaerobically, and I think that can get like, so they're going fast and then they'll stop and rest, and they'll go fast, and they want those short bursts. I'm trying to get people to slow down a little bit, get their heart rate down and settled, and just be able to maintain that pace for a long period of time.
Yesterday's workout was perfect.
Yeah, it's tough to do. Because you feel like I'm not killing myself. I'm wasting my time.
Like the first round, second round. I'm just thinking about yesterday's workout. We were very strongly encouraging the athletes to not come out guns blazing. You know? It's like we got 5 rounds of this. This is 30 minutes long, and they did such a good job. I will definitely shout out.
But there was one person though that came out guns blazing.
I had to specifically call out 2 different people in my class and said, "Do not get 40 calories this first time on the rower. Do not do it." They got 20 or 22, but I mean, you know, it's fine.
We had a buy-in yesterday in our workout with a 40-calorie bike, and some people came out real hot.
Too hot,
real hot.
But it is hard. I'm thinking of, like, as you say that, I'm thinking of specific people who do that, and they are all athletic backgrounds. Like, all of them have or they're still in the athletic world of some sort, coaching.
I think mentally and physically they're set up that way.
Yeah.
So
right.
It's tough
hard
to break that.
Yeah.
Their muscle fibers are geared towards that a little bit. So it's difficult, and everybody's different too.
Right.
I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about this. Like marathon runners now can run their full marathon. Like they're talking 2 hours of a sprint. They're running anaerobically for 2 hours.
It's insane.
It should not be possible for you to be able to do that.
Which again goes against our previous model of energy systems.
Right.
You know?
So that's tough. and everybody, I say it's tough because there's no way to like pinpoint, okay, I'm training anaerobically right now or aerobically right now, personally, unless you have some pretty good models or tools to test yourself with.
Once you
Right.
kind of get into it a little bit,
Yeah.
you can probably figure it out.
But you can adjust based off your effort, like your rate of perceived exertion, right? That's
Yeah.
one way to kind of guess it, or your heart rate, how high it's getting. And if you kind of pay attention to those, you can tell and kind of figure out you independently how you are and what you are most optimal at, how you can
Right.
train best.
Right. And that's one reason that CrossFit defines intensity the way that they do. Like it's simply power. It's just how much work did you do?
right.
Yeah.
Not what was your heart rate, not what was your RPE, not how much were you sweating. Like just how much work did you do in the time
Yep.
that you had to do it in.
Yep.
And that's a lot different than, well, I'm trying to increase my power and explosion to be able to run routes faster as a
Yeah.
wide receiver. So they definitely similar movement patterns, but very different applications, and they're both useful.
Yeah, for
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely. I know we've had some coaches and stuff come in here, and they like to use CrossFit workouts from a mental side for athletes, which I think is effective too.
Yeah.
Because, longer rest times and stuff are not as tough mentally to pick the bar back up when
Yeah.
you're like, I'm so tired, I don't think I can go. So there is some gain to that, I think. But I definitely think the training style should look way different to where you can maximize that speed and the rate of how quickly you're firing those muscles. I know this is where college sports are going. JSU, I believe, even has this technology now where they're tracking the bar speed.
Yeah.
Like that's big time.
Awesome.
They don't test at 1 rep maxes. They're too risky.
Right.
And we've kind of gone to more like 2 and 3 rep maxes because they're a little less risky.
Right.
You still get a pretty good idea of how much you can lift. Honestly, that's just a little bit to feed our egos, including my own, right? Because I want to see how much I can lift, right? But from a sports standpoint, it really doesn't matter. If you just because you can squat the most doesn't mean that you're going to be the best athlete on the field.
Yeah.
That never happens hardly. But they're tracking the bar speed, and they have this equation built up based off of your 5 rep max, 10 rep max, or something. And your bar, you have to, like, so you're doing squats, the bar has to go up. It tracks when it stops at the bottom and it comes back up. And if it's not going up fast enough, the set doesn't count.
Yeah.
And if you the athlete can't overcome that and just push through it and go faster, it'll shut you down and say, you don't need to train today. Something's
not
wrong.
recovered,
Yeah, you're not recovered. And that's really cool because again, it goes back to if you do and you just struggle through those reps, which is what's happened for before this, you're actually training to be slower because you're lifting the weight slower. I feel like that's and power lifters might not like this comment, but I feel like power lifters are slower because of that. They've trained themselves to lift really heavy weight, which is extremely impressive,
Right.
but slower. So they're not going to be as athletic as, say, maybe an Olympic lifter, which is a little bit different. You
Yeah.
have to really fire those muscles quickly to do a clean and jerk or snatch. So you can kind of see that played out in these different athletes in the way that they train. You're going to train, and you said this before, the way you train as an athlete needs to be very close to the way you play on the field.
Right.
The things that you do on the field.
Right.
So that's very important.
Yeah, and I think to your point, that is a good example of kind of an application of their training. Is a power lifter, they train specifically to just lift
Yeah.
1 rep maxes all the time versus a weightlifter. Even though they're training to lift 1 rep maxes, it's more power than it is absolute strength. Like they have
Right.
to move the bar fast because that is the demand of the movement.
Right.
Like if they don't move the bar fast, they're not going to get the bar over their head in the snatch and clean and jerk. Versus somebody who is like a track athlete and they're sprinting 400 meters. Like all of those are very specific skills and movements and an application or expression of movement, and they're all useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because that is what those athletes have chosen to do, what they love to do, that's the thing that they're going to train.
Yeah, I think I think people get so bent out of shape and argue because everybody likes to think that what they're doing is the best.
Yeah.
That people start arguing about which way to exercise is the absolute best, but really it comes back to what your goals are.
Yeah.
And being specific to that.
Yeah.
Like, who cares if you want to lift the most weight possible? Then doing a slow rep on bench press is fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? But if you want to, lift the most weight possible on a clean, well, then your training looks way different. Or a clean and jerk looks way different. Or if you want to sprint faster, your training looks way different. You've got to learn to move your body at a certain speed,
Right.
not just an external weight. So everybody gets so bent out of shape. Who cares?
Yeah.
Right?
What's
Just
your
train what
goals?
you specifically want to do. Make sure it lines up.
Right.
Now, that is a big thing. And you can argue there. If you both have the same goals and one of you's training one way, one of you's training another way, well,
Right.
somebody's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Just test it out, right?
Yeah. Somebody's more effective for sure.
Which, that's kind of what CrossFit does with the CrossFit Games and stuff, right? But it's super well-rounded. But, yeah, people get too bent out of shape about stuff that really doesn't matter because everybody's got different goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
think
all impressive.
It's appropriate, especially if, like, as coaches, we have an athlete in the gym who they say their goal is to build their 1 rep max bench press. Like, it's appropriate to ask them, well, why?
Right.
Yeah.
Is it because you really love powerlifting and you want to do that? Or is it just because you think that this thing is going to make you fitter or
Is
is
this
going
an
to
ego thing?
Yeah, or
trying
is
to
it going to
fix
stroke your ego a little
100%.
bit? And oftentimes it's the latter.
Yep.
It's like, well, they just, because of their background, they think that a 1 rep max equals they
I'm
are
the best.
stronger or they
Yeah.
are better or they
Yep.
are more athletic.
Yep.
And so, like, trying to explain to them, hey, you're actually be better off if you can just do an air squat with
Yeah.
body weight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think it's appropriate to have those conversations with athletes in the gym. And usually if you do that, they end up saying, you're right. I
They
don't
think
really
about
care
it.
that much about having a
Yeah.
1 rep max bench press. I just thought that that's what I needed to do
Right.
in
'Cause that's
order
what they've done their whole life.
in order
Yeah.
to consider
Yeah.
myself to be strong.
They think that that's what it means to be fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's what the world has told people for so many
Yeah.
years, especially guys, when it comes
Yeah.
to you're the strongest.
Don't throw us under the bus like that.
I mean,
okay?
y'all know how y'all be. Y'all know how y'all be with y'all's egos. I mean, girls got it too.
John,
Especially when I'm
when's the
pregnant.
last time you did a 1 rep max bench?
It's been a while. I'm not bad at bench press.
You're not. You've gotten a lot better, but that's your.
Hey.
What?
I did pretty good. You were impressed at how many times I repped out 205 during the CrossFit Combine the
I
other
was.
day.
Oh.
I was. That was very impressive of you.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
did Lynn the other day,
Oh.
which was max reps bench press at your body weight,
Yeah.
and then max pull ups.
Oh my gosh.
5 rounds. You can rest in between. That's a example of slowing down a little bit.
Yeah.
It was brutal.
Sounds fun.
It was brutal.
We should do
I bet
that.
it was.
Let's
It's
do
a good
it.
test.
Yeah.
It's a good test.
All right.
Well,
we
this
better,
was a fun one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got our throwdown. That's what it's called. Throwdown
Yeah.
coming
We're
up.
about to
so
throw down.
We
We're about to throw
are.
down.
All
We're going
right.
to
It's
see
gonna be
what
fun.
people throw out movement wise. I'm a little nervous.
This is the first time, right?
This is the first time.
I'm glad you're here for this. 'Cause
Yeah,
this was
I
all,
am.
This was all coming
Don't
from
throw
Nate.
out anything stupid.
I,
Nate's going to
no.
be like, I'm going to do some Turkish get-ups.
Yeah, we're doing Turkish get up.
Veto. Absolutely.
I love
Immediately.
Turkish get
Do
ups.
y'all have rules on how many vetoes you get?
We hadn't talked
We
about
we
it.
don't have that at Breakthrough, but I think it would be cool.
Yeah.
Like you
We
get
do
you only get so
vetoes
many
during
vetoes.
The CrossFit one or the
Like
Christmas
in the
one.
12 days of Christmas,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it depends on how many movements get thrown out.
Yeah, we'll
Or
throw
how
some
many,
out and
how
then
many
we'll-
right up on the board, I guess.
I think
John,
people are
y'all
gonna be
y'all
scared
better
today.
buckle up.
I know,
I'm
I'm
excited.
nervous.
We're gonna have Nate
It's a
go
lot
up
of
there and be
fun,
like,
though.
Nate, help us.
Yeah, it's one of the funnest parts about being at Breakthrough is like
Yeah.
just seeing what people want to work on
Yeah.
and just getting to throw down with your friends
Yeah.
on Saturday mornings.
I'm
I love
excited.
it.
I'm excited. Well, Nate, we're super pumped that you were here for this. We're definitely going to have you come back in the future. Not only to do a podcast, but we're taking you back one day. You're coming back.
Oh man,
It might be 5 years, it might be 10 years. But you're coming back. You're coming back.
there's
but yeah.
there's still hope.
There's still hope. I know you love Breakthrough.
There's still
We
hope.
like Breakthrough too, but
Hey, we're coming down for the Thelo games and
That's
Sweet.
yeah, we'll have a Breakthrough team representing. So we're pumped about that.
yeah, that's cool. We're excited about that. Last year you destroyed it. That clean.
Oh, I'm still hurting from that clean, by the way.
That was so good. That was so exciting.
Well,
when
awesome.
Nate gets fired up, one more thing. Nate gets fired up, and it's the coolest thing ever because you're so calm, cool, and collected. But in a lift, in a competition setting, it's so cool to see.
You got to let it loose.
It's
I'll let
so
my hair
awesome.
down a little bit.
It's so awesome. All right, well.
Thank you guys so much. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, we're glad you were here.
See you in the gym.
Let's do it.